My name's Adam Conrod, and I have to address something that I seen on both CTVNews Atlantic and the CBC Atlantic, and I think it needs to be addressed. During this 2024 municipal election mayor's debate, both CTV Atlantic and CBC Atlantic had held a mayoral debate for the candidates who are running for mayor of the Halifax region. It sparked a lot of concern in my direction. I heard from people out in the community, they were a little concerned about it, and I think it needs to be addressed. Last night, I had sent out the emails to just about every mayor candidate that's running for the mayor's race in this 2024 municipal election, and they gave me the thumbs up, thanking me for speaking up for them. I spoke up to CBC and the CTV News, and that's something that I had noticed over the years that CTV Atlantic doesn't really appreciate people who will stand up to them for their own wrongdoing. And when they held a mayor's debate with the mayorly candidates that are running for mayor for the 2024 municipal election, they only brought 3, maybe 4 of the candidates that were running for the mayor's race, but not all of them. And that sparked a lot of concern. Andy Fillmore was there, Waye Mason was there, Pam Lovelace was there, and some other guys, I forget his name, but not all of the candidates that were running for the mayor's race was there. Now, I don't know if CTV and CBC invited them all out, if they only invited some of them out, or they did invite them all out, and some of the candidates might have said, I can't make it. But when I looked at the amount of candidates that was there was a lot of candidates that was missing. And if it is what I predicted, CBC and the CTV News only calling certain candidates who they think is going to get elected because of the projection of the polls that are coming back, that sparks a lot of controversy, and it sparks a lot of unfair opportunities for the other candidates that could use that spotlight to help them get noticed and help them with their campaign so people know who they are. Now, when I went onto the city's website, halifax.ca, whatever you call it, I looked at the list of candidates who was running for mayor. And one of the things that I noticed when I looked at the mayor race, their candidates that are running for mayor, is some of the candidates don't have a picture on their on the city's website to let people know who these people are who is running. And I have to say something right there. Now, you candidates running for mayor has to provide a picture so people know who you are. A name on a card, a name on a flyer, or on an election sign doesn't exactly cut the cake. And when I got involved in politics well over 25 years ago, one of the things that I learned about if you're going to run for politics is it's mighty costly. It's not cheap. It's very costly. You have to be well orchestrated. Unfortunately, your life is under a microscope. You can't do anything odd outside of the lines because you're going to get criticized for it quite well. And when you run for public office, there's no such thing as breaking the law. Even though that every single one of us had done it in our lifetimes, it's forbidden. If you were caught speeding, if you were caught, I don't know, arguing with somebody, the police might have said, we're going to get you to move along because you're causing a disturbance. It's forbidden for a candidate to step outside that line every now and then. But I mean, if it's something major, I can see. But when I looked at the mayor's debate on CBC and the CTV, my attitude is, guys, I'm going to say this right to the CTV Atlantic and CBC News Atlantic is, if you guys cannot invite all of the candidates out, don't have the mayor's debate. The reason why you decided, as CTV and CBC decided to have the mayor's debate on television is because of TV ratings, publicity, trying to promote to certain candidates who you think is going to get elected. And in a way, when you look at that, technically the word discrimination can be added in that category. And that's a concern. Now, I don't know if any of the candidates might have turn to the lawyers and they might have made legal threats towards CTV or CBC for this, because I could see that happening, because it's not a fair election when that happens. And when CBC and the CTV News only invites certain people out of the massive list of the candidates who are running for mayor, the clerk's office needs to address the media. If you're not going to be fair about these debates that you're going to have, you're not going to air it all, because we're not going to allow it. And that's exactly what the clerk's office in City Hall, the people in charge of this 2024 municipal election, should be doing. Now, I said it myself. I got to tell you right now, I'm not really interested in any of the candidates that are running for mayor. I'm not. Because I'm going to tell you something. When I looked at the list of candidates that are running for mayor, one of the things that I noticed was, you ever notice how they don't look very professional? They look a little scruffy. They're not dressed merely presentable at all. They just, I don't know why they're running. Some people, when they run for public office, they're running for the publicity. The mayor's job is a good way to do that. And that's something that I think the clerk's office has to be aware of. Allow the people to run, but advise them. We want you to look presentable before the public when you're knocking on doors, when you're canvassing, when you're expressing your concerns, or you're expressing to people, this is what we're going to do if they get elected. You have to look presentable. I've seen candidates like clothing like this, logos all over their T-shirts, right, scruffy looking. Don't look merely presentable at all. If any of those people would have came to my door dressed like that, I'm probably going to ask them to leave, because I'm probably liable to tell them that I'm not taking you serious right now. I am not taking you seriously is what I should, when you're telling me that you're campaigning for mayor. You need to make yourself presentable. You got to make yourself a heck of a lot more noticeable than what you are. And if you cannot provide those few elements, then that person should not be running for mayor. It's pretty simple. You got to look presentable. Now, during this municipal election, we had a lot of things that sparked concern. Andy Fillmore became a concern. He had stated that, according to the police studies from the Halifax Police, who is one of Canada's largest corrupt police agency in the history of Canada, mind you, Andy Fillmore has stated on the press, it was all noted on CTVNews with Bruce Frisco. He had stated that the Halifax Police had told Andy Fillmore that Halifax is a homeless attraction for all the homeless people, and they're causing a lot of concern. Andy, now I'm not saying that you actually said this. I'm going by what the press had stated. If you had stated that, Andy, here's the problem. You got to look at the Halifax Police. Canada's largest corrupt police agency in the history of Canada is where you got that report from. I wouldn't shake the hand of a Halifax police officer if my life's counted on it. You got racist police officers with the Halifax Police. You got sexist police officers with the Halifax Police. You got police officers that are nothing more than just bad attentions to the community of their Halifax region. You got police officers that are part of the Halifax Regional Police that shouldn't even be among their Halifax Police Force in the first place. And when you look at the city council, Halifax City Council, they're doing absolutely nothing on how to fix their problem. In fact, they're appointing concerning police officers as their chief of police, and then they're known for that. And then you got your professional standards with the Halifax Police. Those are the people that handle complaints from the general public in the direction of police officers. The only thing that they do, the public standards, professional standards, whatever you want to call them, is that they just protect that corrupt police officer off to the side. We had a police officer that was on the news that allowed a person in custody die in their hands. How can a person die in the hands of a police officer? It's not hard for an officer to go to and from their cell where they're held to check up on their well-being. For a person to be found deceased, that makes you ask the question is, was the people in charge doing their rounds, checking up on the well-being of people, and how often were they doing it? And did the inmate have a belt, shoestrings, anything that could hang themselves? that could cause death or harm to themselves. Because when you got a person in custody, that's the time when they're going to attempt suicide or something, because for whatever reason, But the Halifax police, the province, which is the jurisdiction, to dissolve the Halifax police is in the responsibility of the province of Nova Scotia. And they're the only ones that can do that. And I'm going to tell you something right now. When I looked at the issues here in Nova Scotia, they were all provincial topics: affordable housing, health care, mental health care, the poverty. It's all the forest fire issues. There's one. It's all fallen in the hands, the responsibility, the jurisdiction of the province of Nova Scotia. And one of the things that I noticed over the years is party politics is creating more trouble than what they're doing any good. And not one party member, not one person is doing anything to resolve this problem. The only thing that these party politics are interested in is getting themselves elected, lasting at least 1 year so they can qualify for that wealthy pension. Other than that, why are they there? Why are we voting for them? I mean, when I've been involved in these elections, I was involved with Mayor Peter Kelly. I worked with him. Here is his shirt right here. So you can't say, whatever. I worked with Peter Kelly. I knew Peter Kelly quite well. My father worked with Peter Kelly's on at the chocolate factory in Woodside for about 33 years before it finally closed. I'm going to tell you something right now. Remember how Peter Kelly was made out the great mayor? Oh, what a nice man. Whoa, we can't get any better than this. Boy, I got to take my hat off to him. We only wish that we could get more people like Peter Kelly. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Peter Kelly was anything but the great man that he presented himself to be. I'm going to tell you something. I worked with Peter Kelly's elections. I was aside Peter Kelly during regional council and away from council. I've seen him. He was a good guy, but he was sneaky, very sneaky. Never big enough to approach a person who he had a problem with. Never big enough to approach somebody who he may have done wrong to in the past. He was never that big enough of a person to do it. And if he had a problem with somebody, he's not going to go to them with it. He's going to go behind their back, and he's going to have somebody or something attack that person instead of confronting the person head on and expressing his issues. When Peter Kelly, just before Peter Kelly was about to leave regional council for the last time in 2012, it was announced Peter Stauffer or Mike Savage was going to run against Peter Kelly in the 2012 municipal election. Peter Kelly had stated that he was going to run. He's going to run for mayor once again. Here's the problem. Peter Kelly was burning more bridges with people than it was worthwhile. He wasn't the great mayor what he used to be. In fact, he's wrong. His corrupt business was starting to come to the surface. I mean, now he's stuff with his aunt, with his estate, with his aunt's estate. I'm not going to get in that because that's a personal issue. That's not a public thing. That's a personal issue. So I'm going to push that aside. We're not going to talk about it. But when Peter Kelly decided not to run, when it was announced that Mike Savage was going to run against him for mayor, you look at the list of candidates that Peter Kelly had to run when he was mayor. He had no strong candidates, none whatsoever. And when I look back at that, I start to realize, Peter Kelly, he never really had a strong candidate to run against. And when he tried to run for member of parliament in Bedford, I was told he ran against Peter Christie. He lost the nomination. All right, so he went back to municipal politics. He was the councillor for Bedford, became the mayor of Bedford. So when the amalgamation took place, he became the council member for Halifax Regional Council, then he got elected the mayor in 2000. Now, here's the thing. Peter Kelly would tell you stuff which you want to hear, but he was pretty reasonable. But here's the thing. He didn't actually do what needed to be done. When Peter Kelly was about to leave, he was bringing all his buddies in the city hall. He was bringing that Peter Duffy guy from the press, and he had his girlfriend there, Stephen Taylor, come in, and then he had a few other Tory buddies come in. I had an issue with that. That's not creating jobs for the average person out in the community when you're bringing your own buddies in. That's not the way to how to do business. If I was mayor of Halifax, I'd be going down to the universities and I'm going to hire someone who's trained in this field so we can make employment for people. Great opportunities. Oh, the mayor of Halifax just hired me. Can you believe that? But at the end of Peter Kelly's career, he got in turmoil and he decided not to run when Mike Savage ran against him because he never had a strong candidate ever to run against. So he decided to leave Halifax and he went to Westlock County, Alberta to become the CAO, and I believe his term had ended. But it was reported that he was taking access of money that he wasn't exposed to. He didn't have the authority to do it. So he stole money nonetheless, according to the press. So he decides a few months later, let's go to Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and become the CAO for Charlottetown Regional Council. He does it again. He stole money. You take money that doesn't belong to you. That's stealing. So we can use the word stealing here. And then he gets fired from the Charlottetown Regional Council on a vote. The council did a vote and decided to fire Peter Kelly. I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. Here's the thing. If that would have been you or I who would have stole that amount of money from council, we'd be going to jail. We'd be given at least a 20, 25, even a 30-year prison sentence. No chance of parole. No chance of nothing. Sitting in that little tiny jail cell with a cement floor and those little sandals. Let your back ache because of the cement floor and rot. But it's okay for Peter Kelly to do it. So how is that setting an example for the community? So what the government, the federal government, and all the governments are saying is, it's okay for a politician to steal money, but it's not okay for the general public to steal money. Isn't that funny how I'm failing to understand this? I'm failing to understand the justification here. The justification is that there is no justification. The justification is corrupt. You can't send the average person to court because it's sexist, it's money driven, the judge is bought out. Peter Kelly should have been given at least a 25, 30-year prison sentence. I don't know who patrols the city of Charlottetown, if they have a city police agency or it's the RCMP, but regardless, the RCMP or the Charlottetown police should have been going to the residence of Peter Kelly and advising him, we got to get you to turn around, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest. You'll have your stay in court on your bail hearing. You'll have a lawyer present for you. That's what Peter Kelly should have been given. And you go back to 2016, Peter Kelly had made an announcement. He was looking at running for mayor against Mike Savage. So the press did a poll study, CTV, and I believe it was CBC. You want to get the response from people. Would you re-elect Peter Kelly as mayor? So we looked at the numbers. People were saying no. That's why he didn't re-offer, because Peter Kelly never faced a political defeat in years since the day of Peter Christie. And he didn't want to see that on the national news. The great mayor of Halifax lost to Mike Savage. But really, Peter Kelly, in my opinion, should be in jail right now. Not home, but in prison. But with the here's the other. We're going to go to the big parts of the municipal politics here. Public transit, struggling. Majority of the communities of the Halifax region do not have access to public transit. We see it on the news. CBC. CTV would never air this. CBC aired it. A woman going to work. She lived in Burnside. She had to go to work. She takes the public transit. Bus drives right by her bus stop. She's been waiting at her bus stop a few days. Bus just keeps going past her on her bus stop. So now that makes the bus not reliable to use. And that means the Halifax Transit has to put bigger buses on that bus route. And they did. Bus still overcrowded. When you have an unreliable public transit bus service, people stop using the service. Don't blame them. I got to say, if that would have been If CBC would have aired that, CTV is not getting on that case. See, when I compare CBC and the CTV, these are the differences that I noticed. CTV is too busy making a great big deal out of these nobody people who we never heard of, promoting them as if there's this great big celebrity when really nobody knows who in the hell they are or haven't heard of them for that fact. And then they go out there, their main focus is the rich and the wealthy. That's CTV. The odd time they'll do a story on the homelessness just for TV ratings, just say we're there for everybody, when really they're not. CBC is there for the average person. CTV should have been doing that story about helping that woman out on why she can't access to the bus. Why is that bus leaving her high and dry in Halifax? Because it's overcrowded. Why in Halifax Transit putting a bigger transit service on that street? But that just disproves that, that the Halifax public transit service it got holes in the system. I'll tell you something right now. Now, all you mayor candidates, write this down here, and you're going to get excited over this. In 2012, in District 2, Councillor David Hensby had stated that they were going to City of Halifax Regional Council and Halifax Transit was going to construct a parking ride rapid bus service for the communities of Musquodoboit Harbour, Porters Lake, and the community of Mineville. Only Porters Lake got that parking ride constructed in 2012. The communities of Musquodoboit Harbour and the communities of Mineville never had it happen. Now here's the thing. They had stated that the communities of Mineville and the community of Musquodoboit Harbour were supposed to get their parking ride, and they didn't. I was after David Hensby about that quite a bit throughout the years. And did you ever not notice after municipal election after municipal election after municipal election, David Hensby kept on crowing about that parking ride that was supposed to be constructed for the community of Musquodoboit Harbour and Mineville, but only Porters Lake got it. And he can't figure out why that 370 bus route, Metro X, that runs from Porters Lake directly to downtown Halifax, mind you, has low ridership. Here's the thing. I called Halifax Transit. I was talking to a supervisor. I'm not going to mention his last name for his own privacy, but his name was Dave. So I was talking to Dave. And I asked Dave, I said, Dave, could you please tell me what happened to that parking ride that was promised for the communities of Musquodoboit Harbour and Mineville? And he had stated, this is his side of the story, which David Hensby doesn't agree with, because he's entitled to his opinion, all right. Dave had stated the community of Musquodoboit Harbour's construction site for a public transit park and ride for the 370 that was supposed to go to Musquodoboit Harbour had been discontinued. Not happening. But he had stated the park and ride that was promised for the community of Mineville is still in the air. It's still being debated. And I can understand what he's saying. The city can't, Halifax Transit can't construct a park and ride if the province ain't going to give the city the land to build on in the first place, which is understandable. And when I looked at that area, the Mineville community, throughout the years, Keith Caldwell was the MLA. Then it went to that Angela Simmons. And then it went to this other lady. I can't even pronounce her name. I know it, I just can't pronounce it. Throughout the years, Keith Caldwell was always at neck to neck, button heads with David Hensby. Never able to get along at all because their political difference was too. They just couldn't do it. And when I looked at, I knew Keith well at the time, and Keith was known for not getting along with people if their politics was different, which was a concern, and it is. It's not about the person in office. It's about the community. Is why these people are elected in the first place. And if your MLA and council member can't get along, it means we can't have them doing this job any longer. And that's exactly what was happening between Keith Cole and David Hensby. Because of that, it delayed the construction site of this park and ride for the 370, the community of Mineville. So I asked Angela Simmons, I called her MLA office about the park and ride, what was promised for the community of Mineville. She didn't know what to say. She was lost for words. Oh, Anna, now you can call me back the next day. We'll talk about this or whatever. You mean to tell me when I left a voice message on your answer machine that before you returned my phone call, that she couldn't go on the computer and look things up? She couldn't make a phone call to Halifax Transit or the appropriate people in charge, so you can have the answer before you return my phone call, before just saying, I don't know, Abby, can you call us back? What kind of an MLA is that? In my opinion, I think Angela Simmons was just there for her bag of candy. And it's funny how she left after one term she served. And with this new MLA, it's hard to say. It really is. I didn't engage her about this. So all you Maryland candidates want to have something to chew on. This park and ride that was promised for the community of Musquodoboit Harbour and Mineville, now there's something that you can chew on David Hensby about in Halifax Transit Regional Council. What happened to it? In my opinion, what they did was they made Porters Lake something that it's not. Porters Lake is a community with the rich, it's middle class, and it's very hard to get along with some of them. It really is, because they can be quite ignorant at times. I've seen good people insulted by them, because I seen a guy driving around in a Lamborghini. In fact, he got 2 Lamborghinis. When I looked at the community in Porters Lake, the reason why they don't access their bus, public transit, I seen this. Did you ever not notice their body language when they're getting on the bus? They're ashamed that their friends might see them. They're hollering and screaming, we don't take the bus because of the poor hours of operation. What a load of crap. You got the 370 with good hours of operation, and they don't get on it because they're too proud that their friends might see them. But yet they rather bark and complain that, well, the gas prices is mighty costly. The cost of operating a car is getting up there, with the inflation crisis and stuff. But let's not make access to that bus. And here's the interesting thing. And back in January, David Hensby, remember this one, they had that council meeting about those unwanted parking, those unwanted sidewalks that was proposed for the community of Porters Lake. Bruce Frisco did the story. In fact, I was talking to him. This woman got up when they were talking about public transit. Oh, we love to use that public transit. I use it if I had the opportunity, but we can't use it because it's not there. Porters Lake had a public transit for the past 30 years. When I left high school in 1999, Porters Lake had a public transit bus. The hours of operation wasn't too handsome back then, now mind you. It's not something I would use to get to and from work. But over the years, their hours of operation got better. That woman that was barking, saying that she used a public transit bus that was available, she never even got on that bus at all. I take the bus every now and then. And over the past 25 years that I took that bus occasionally, off and on, I never seen that woman step foot on that bus ever. And then she's standing there, I use a bus if it was there. If you live in Porters Lake, how could you not know that a public transit bus was never available to the community in the first place? How is that humanly possible? Because the bus runs right on the main road, on the number 7 highway. How is that hard not to notice? And then you got the 370 that runs along the 107 right in Halifax. How can you not see that? Because they're not dedicated, is what they say they are. They're all talk and no action. And because of that, those untrue people in that community of Porters Lake are not what they say they are. And it's people like that that mislead Halifax Transit, saying, we'll use it if you give it to us, which they did. A public transit bus that only can accommodate 6 people per trip on the 370 is not reliable ridership. The public transit is based on ridership. The requirement of passengers per trip is 14 passengers per trip, and that 370 that runs from Porters Lake to Halifax is only getting 6 people at most per trip. There's a problem. You have to have 14. Why are people not using that 370? Because they're too ashamed that people might see them. And there are many excuses, like what I just told you, other excuses that they often use is, we didn't know it was there. The Porters Lake Park and Ride is literally right in front of the Porters Lake Elementary School. Your kids go to school there. There's teaching staff that go there. Everybody goes there. How can you not see that park and ride sit there? So I think we get the idea what's going on here. But the 401 that travels from Porters Lake to Lake Echo to East Preston, as far as Port Hills bus terminal in Dartmouth, they get about 12, 13, maybe 14 passengers per trip if they're lucky. So it's passable, but it's a smudge under at the same time. But the concern with the 401, when it ends its bus route, it goes to the Port Hills bus terminal. When you get off the transfer to go to Halifax, wherever you're going, the buses do not connect. They never did connect. I've been after David Hansby. I went to the 311, the Halifax Transit Supervisor, and I suggested, what was never done, mind you, why not have that 401 bus service skip the Port Hills bus terminal and just go right down to the Dartmouth Bridge terminal? Or just have the 401 go right to Halifax. What's the difference? You're halfway there anyways, because if the buses ain't connecting at the Port Hills bus terminal, that creates unreliable bus service. That's not reliable enough. And it's not, especially if you got to wait another 20 minutes when you get off the bus. And by the time you get to your destination, you're about an hour and a half on a bus. That's no good. It's bad enough it's about an hour's drive from Porters Lake to Dartmouth on a bus. You go from Porters Lake to Dartmouth in a car, you're there in 15 minutes at most. An hour and a half or so on a public transit, that's a bit long. That needs to be worked on. So I got to say is, back to this mayorly debate issue that I noticed, CTV, Atlantic, CBC News got to smarten up. You really got to, well, I'll say smarten up to CBC, because I take my hat off to them. I think they're good. Well, they are good people, and they're down to earth a lot more than CTV. But CTV been doing this for years and years and years. Now, I don't know if a candidate might have had a lawyer caution to the press. I would have, but, that's them. That's only up to them to do it. But when you only debate with only half the candidates that are there out of the whole bunch, that's not very fair. It's just, I found it very insulting. I really did. I found it very insulting. And every story that CTV often airs is always about the rich and the fancy, these rich brown nosers off the side that nobody gives a crap about. Like I said, they're over there promoting, making a big deal out of people that are supposed to be celebrities who we never even heard of or seen before in our lives. Even to this day, to some of the people who they promote, I don't even know who they are. I mean, I believe that some people at CTV are good people. I mean, but they really got to watch how they're, maybe they got to make a change in the producers. They got to start firing people, get better people in there, Because when they start looking after the rich and the wealthy only, when they start making mistakes like we've seen at this debate, things are going to change. And so I decided I was going to speak up for the candidates. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I had mayoral candidates email me back and thank me for speaking up for them and standing up to them. So it said, Adam, thank you for not leaving us forgotten. That's what they did. And if CBC and the CTV News wants to do something professional, they'll make a public apology to the candidates, not only to the candidates, but to the people of the Halifax region. Sorry that we may have insulted your intelligence and stuff, and they did. But me, like I said, I'm not really interested in any of the candidates that are running in the first place. My main focus is watching on the presidential election. I like that. I like my buddy Trump. I think the world of him. And when I looked at Halifax Regional Council this term, I mentioned to a few mayorly candidates, I've seen a lot of incompetence take place. They can't make decisions properly. My topic about the affordable housing pallets in Woodside, the clerk's office, we found your email kind of disturbing when you're voicing these concerns. And when people seen that video and they're all saying, what's so bloody disturbing? Is it because we're telling you stuff that you don't want to hear because you're realizing this affordable housing crisis through the roof because you people didn't do your jobs right? That's basically what it comes down to. See, I don't care. See, listen to me. If you're in a clerk's office, here, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what you think. I'm out there addressing the community, no matter what the topics are, no matter if it's a provincial, federal, municipal topic. If you don't like the topic that I'm bringing up or the people's that's bringing up the community, do us a favor. Get out of City Hall, get out of the clerk's office, and whoever the mayor may be, find somebody that's more appropriate to be in the clerk's office in Halifax City Hall so people's opinions, their concerns, whatever that may be, is respected. I don't care if you don't like it. Now, we're back with Andy Fillmore. You know, he's out there playing buddies with the Halifax Police, the worst police agency in the history of Canada. And did you ever not notice when Andy Fillmore, how you have every Liberal, every Tory known to man all getting on his bandwagon to make sure that he's in office? How is that a fair election? It's not fair. It's just disgraceful. It really is. It's sickening. We've seen this with Mike Savage. I've seen it with Peter Kelly. I've been saying it once, and I'll say it again. Party politics creates more trouble than what they're any worth while engaged. They create more problems than what they're doing any good. They really are. And really, my opinion, we should be toppling party politics. We really should, because they're creating more trouble. Like I said with the municipal, with the provincial side of politics. They can't even combat a forest fire without having to turn to Premier Blaine Higgs to get a water bomber because the city or the province is too bloody stupid. They invest their money in their own water bomber. How's that hard to win? Why? It makes no sense. And then you got the housing crisis. I mean, the people collect income at all different sources when they're retired. It could be community service, federal, whatever. People who are on community service, when they make changes, they go after everybody. People who may have a mental health disability where the risk level is too high to go to work, it makes them too dangerous to go to work, but they're safe to be out to community at the same time, those people can't go to work because they're too dangerous. They can't go there. They're too sick. They just can't handle that setting. Their province's community services system has to change. We can't have things the way they are. It got to change. But, you know, when I look at this municipal election, I got my doubts. I really do. For the councillor for District 2, I'm not even voting for that. Two candidates, David Hensby and his Will Willigan, or whatever you want to call him, for District 2. David Hensby been there for so long, he only needs a little bit of the votes to get back in anyway. So how's that a fair election? David Hensby, like I told David Hensby in the past, you should make way for somebody new. I said, David, if you want to continue with politics, go against Kent Smith during that Eastern Shore PC Conservative nomination and put him out. And a lot of people would rather see David Hensby as the MLA than Kent Smith. A lot of people don't like Kent Smith. In fact, they despise him. In fact, Kent Smith had a few lawyers go after him in the past. Kent Smith was instructed, you're not allowed to go on my property anymore, you're going to be charged. He was told. But that just shows the gullible, the ignorance of your MLA, Kent Smith. How did he get there in the first place? The Eastern Shore. The Eastern Shore, I'm going to tell you something. This is how the Eastern Shore works. We're going to go here real soon. If you're a Liberal and a Tory, they'll vote anybody in. There's the problem. The Eastern Shore have been voting Liberal, Tory, Liberal, Tory. The flop been going back and forth steady. And they've been putting real problematic people in office, real genuine arseholes going in office. I mean, when Kevin Murphy went in, he was very insulting. He had it out with me to the point that the RCMP, Sergeant Bill Casey, had to go talk to him. And he had stated, Kevin, if you're out there insulting at him, if you said something to him, I may have to charge you here. So he said, I have to investigate this. Did you say anything? And he asked him, Kevin, did you say anything that to trigger him off? Go have an argument with you, because we need to know, because we got to keep the sanity in the community. And Kevin Murphy doesn't know how he's hid down. He already admitted it. And the officer asked him, can you not engage him like this anymore? Because I may have to charge you if you do this in the past. Kevin Murphy never did it again. So the officer came back to me at my door. He said, Adam, as of right now, when you went off your rocker with Kevin Murphy because he insulted you, he was scared of he's in fear of his safety. And he said, he admits he said something he shouldn't have, and he's very insulting like that, and he wants to call a truce. And we did. And ever since that day, me and Kevin Murphy have been a lot better acquaintance than what we were in the past. And then we had Bill Dukes before Kevin Murphy, caught in the MLA expense scandal. He stole well over $60,000. And get this, the people of the Eastern Shore almost voted him back in office. Could you imagine? So Bill Dukes should be home collecting a wealthy pension. He should be in a correctional faculty prison serving at least a 25, 30-year prison sentence. So that just shows you the intelligence of the Eastern Shore voters. Not very intelligent. And then they vote Kent Smith in. A very sneaky person. I don't like him. I told Kent Smith, I don't like you. But, but that just shows you the intelligence of the Eastern Shore. People like me actually came up to me and said, Adam, why aren't you running for mayor? And I said, do you know what? I'm another President Donald Trump. I speak up as is. I don't care if people don't like what I have to say. I speak my opinion. People don't like it. And I said, I sort of regret not offering my name for it. I should have did it, and I didn't. Maybe in the next election, I'll do it in the 2030 election. Maybe in 2030, I'll put my name forward. But anyways, my name's Adam Conrod. I felt that Mayor League debate was an insult, and I asked that CTV and CBC both makes a public apology, not to only the candidates that are run for mayor, but to the community of Halifax.